Please, someone help my mom. She's dying. The voice was soft, trembling, and nearly swallowed by the storm outside. The rain came down in sheets, lightning cutting through the darkness as thunder rolled over the city. A little girl, barely 6 years old, stood on the marble steps of a mansion so large it could have swallowed her whole. She was soaked to the bone, clutching a worn-out pink backpack to her chest. Her small fists banged against the heavy glass doors again. Inside, Alexander Knight was staring at the flickering fireplace, lost in thought. The CEO of Knight Industries, he was known across the country as a man of steel, one who crushed competition and showed no mercy in business. To him, emotions were distractions, and compassion was a liability. His world was built on precision, control, and silence. But that night, silence broke. The sound of tiny fists hitting glass echoed faintly through the entrance hall. He frowned, at first thinking it was the wind. Then it came again. 3 hesitant knocks, spaced apart, as if whoever stood outside was running out of strength. He rose, his long shadow stretching across the room. His butler, Robert, hurried to open the door, but Alexander stopped him with a motion of his hand. "I'll handle it." When he opened the door, a rush of cold rain hit him, and so did the sight that made his chest tighten. A little girl with tangled hair and tear-streaked cheeks stared up at him, her lips trembling. Her dress was soaked and muddy. Her shoes were mismatched, one strap broken. "Please, sir," she whimpered. "My mom, she's hurt. She can't wake up." For a moment, Alexander just stared, unable to process the sight. He wasn't used to children. His life had no room for innocence or chaos. Yet something about her voice, a desperate honesty, cut through his hardened shell. "Where is she?" he asked sharply. The girl pointed to the street, where an old, rusted car sat under a broken streetlight. Its headlights were dim, and the passenger door hung open. He grabbed his coat and followed her, his shoes splashing through puddles. Inside the car, slumped against the seat, was a woman, pale, soaked, and barely breathing. Her skin was cold, her lips faintly blue. She looked fragile, almost lifeless. Alexander's breath caught. He recognized her. Lena Carter. A name he hadn't spoken in years. Memories flashed in fragments. Her smile, her quiet dedication at the office, the day she stood up to him when he was wrong, and the day he destroyed her career. Years ago, Lena had been one of his brightest managers at Knight Industries. She was loyal, hardworking, the kind of woman who inspired people. But when a confidential client file leaked, he'd accused her of betrayal. Publicly, harshly, without evidence. The scandal cost her everything: her job, her reputation, and her dignity. Later, he'd discovered the truth. She had been innocent, framed by someone else. He'd searched for her to make it right, but she had vanished without a trace. And now here she was, broken, dying, in front of him. He didn't hesitate. Alexander picked her up gently, her weight far too light, and carried her inside. The little girl followed, clutching his coat with trembling fingers. "Robert," he shouted. "Call Drive Harlow. Now. Tell him it's an emergency." Within minutes, the mansion filled with the quiet urgency of life returning to a place long dead. The doctor arrived, soaked from the storm, bringing warmth and hope into the room. Alexander stood beside the little girl, watching as they laid Lena on the couch, wrapped her in blankets, and began treatment. The girl looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Will she be okay?" He swallowed hard. "She will," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. As the doctor worked, Alexander couldn't look away from Lena's face. Time had changed her. There were lines of struggle now, shadows of exhaustion, but her beauty was still there, quiet and graceful, like something the world couldn't destroy. When the doctor finally stepped back, wiping his brow, he spoke softly. "She's stable for now, but she needs real care. Her condition's critical: malnutrition, infection, exhaustion. She's been through hell." The little girl whimpered, hugging her backpack tighter. Alexander looked at her properly for the first time. She had the same chestnut hair as Lena, the same spark in her eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she murmured. "Lily Carter." He nodded slowly. "I'm Alexander." Lily tilted her head, studying him with an innocent curiosity that made him uneasy. "You're the man from Mommy's picture." His breath caught. "Picture?" She nodded. Mommy kept it in her book. She said you were the man who made her strong, even if you didn't mean to. The words hit him harder than any business loss ever could. He turned away, hiding the sting in his eyes. When Lily finally fell asleep on the couch, Alexander sat alone beside Lena's bed. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a deep stillness. He reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her forehead. "How did it come to this, Lena?" he whispered. "How did someone like you end up here?" Her eyelids fluttered weakly, and a faint smile crossed her lips. "Alex." He froze. She remembered him. "Don't talk," he said softly. But she did. Her voice was fragile, barely a breath. "You still sound the same. Cold, but trying to be kind." He looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "You need to rest." Her eyes opened just enough to meet his. "Why help me now?" He swallowed, guilt burning his throat. "Because I should have helped you before." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The storm outside faded, replaced by the soft ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Finally, she whispered, "Promise me, if anything happens to me, take care of her." "Don't say that," he murmured, his voice cracking. "You'll recover." She smiled faintly. "I hope so, but if I don't, she deserves more than I ever had." He looked at the sleeping child, her tiny chest rising and falling in rhythm. Something inside him, something buried under years of pride and ambition, shifted. He nodded slowly. "I promise." Her eyes fluttered closed, and she slipped into a deep, exhausted sleep. Alexander sat back, staring at the ceiling. The firelight danced across the room, painting shadows on the walls. He thought about the empire he'd built, the billions he'd earned, the people he'd stepped over to get there, and for the first time, it all felt meaningless. Because tonight, a stranger's knock had done what no rival, no tragedy, no loss ever could. It had cracked open his frozen heart. And as he watched the little girl sleeping beside her mother, he whispered into the quiet air. "Maybe, just maybe, this is my second chance." The mansion was quiet that morning, except for the faint sound of birds outside and the soft breathing of a little girl who had cried herself to sleep beside her mother's hospital bed. The storm had passed, but in its wake, it had left behind something even more powerful, a broken man staring at the consequences of his own heart. Alexander Knight, the billionaire known for never losing control, had just watched a woman he once destroyed fight for her life. And for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about profits or power. He was thinking about redemption. The sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting a golden glow on the white hospital sheets. Lena Carter lay still, her skin pale but peaceful. Machines hummed softly beside her, steady but uncertain. Alexander hadn't moved from the chair all night. His tailored suit was wrinkled, his eyes red from exhaustion. He had seen countless boardrooms, negotiations, and corporate battles, but nothing had ever made him feel as powerless as watching her slip between life and death. A small hand touched his arm. "Mr. Alex." Lily's sleepy voice pulled him out of his thoughts. He turned. The little girl was standing there, still wearing the oversized shirt one of the maids had lent her. Her hair was messy, but her eyes, those innocent hazel eyes, were full of a strength that didn't belong to a child. "Is Mommy going to wake up today?" she asked quietly. Alexander took a slow breath. "She's very tired, Lily. But the doctors are helping her. She's strong." She nodded, though her small shoulders trembled. "Can I stay with her?" "Of course," he said softly. "You don't have to leave her side." She climbed onto the chair beside him, holding her mother's hand gently, as if afraid to break her. Watching them, Alexander felt something twist inside him. He had lived in mansions, flown on private jets, signed deals worth billions, but this little girl's love for her mother was the richest thing he had ever seen. The doctor entered quietly a few minutes later. "Mr. Knight," he began, "her condition is stable, but it's fragile. She'll need long-term care, rest, and proper nutrition. I'd suggest keeping her here under supervision." Alexander nodded. "Do whatever it takes. Don't worry about the cost." The doctor hesitated, then added, "She's been through severe hardship. Whoever she is, she must have fought hard to survive." "She always did," Alexander murmured. When the doctor left, the silence returned, heavy but intimate. Lily broke it first. "Mommy said you were her boss before. Is that true?" Alexander glanced at her. Yes, a long time ago. Did you like her? The question caught him off guard. He looked down, his voice low. I respected her, but I didn't show it. I made mistakes, ones I can't take back. Lily tilted her head. Did you make her cry? He exhaled slowly. Yes, I did. She thought for a moment, her small brow furrowed. Then, softly, she said, Mommy says people who hurt others should say sorry, and then do something good to make it better. He looked at her in quiet awe. Your mom is very wise. She's my best friend, Lily said proudly. She says people can change if they really want to. Her words stayed with him long after she'd gone to nap on the couch. Change. The one thing he'd always thought was weakness. But maybe, it was the only thing that could save him now. Lena's condition improved slowly under the best care money could buy. Alexander made sure she had everything, nutritionists, therapists, constant attention. But he didn't just throw money at the problem. He was there, every single day. He learned to make Lily's breakfast. He sat beside her while she colored on his business documents. The mansion that once echoed with loneliness now hummed with the sound of childish laughter and the faint scent of pancakes. His employees were stunned. The cold, ruthless CEO was showing up to work with crayon marks on his shirt cuffs and a softness in his voice they'd never heard before. And when Lena finally opened her eyes for more than a few minutes, he was there. Her gaze found him immediately. You haven't changed, she whispered faintly. He smiled sadly. I have, or I'm trying to. She tried to sit up, but he gently helped her back. Don't, he said softly. You're still weak. Her eyes moved to the vase of fresh flowers beside her bed. You didn't have to do all this, Alexander. I did, he replied quietly. I owe you everything. Her lips curved into a faint smile. You don't owe me. Just take care of Lily if I can't. A chill passed through him. Don't say that. You're going to live, Lena. She sighed softly. You always were bad at accepting reality. He took her hand gently, his voice breaking. Then let me change that. Let me make things right this time. Tears welled in her eyes. You already have. You came when we needed help. That's more than I ever expected. That night, she grew weaker again. Her breathing shallow, her pulse fragile. Alexander refused to leave her side. He held her hand, his thumb brushing over her cold skin. Lena, stay with me, he whispered. Please. Her lips trembled into a faint smile. I wish I could. Lily needs someone to protect her. Promise me, Alex. Don't let her be alone. He pressed her hand to his chest, his voice cracking. I promise. And with that, Lena took one last breath, soft, peaceful, like a sigh of relief, and was gone. Alexander froze. The monitors went silent. The room felt suddenly too small, too cold. Lily woke up at the sound of his broken whisper, no, and ran to the bed. Mommy, she screamed, shaking her mother's hand. Mommy, wake up. Alexander knelt beside her, his own tears falling freely. He wrapped his arms around the little girl, holding her as she sobbed. The man who once ruled empires and crushed rivals cried like a child that night. Because no amount of power could bring back the one thing he had taken for granted, love. Lena Carter's name became more than a memory. Alexander established the Lena Carter Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting single mothers and children in need. He changed his company's policies, offering education, healthcare, and safety nets for employees. The world began to see a different Alexander Knight, a man not feared, but respected. And Lily, she became his light. Every morning, she'd run through the mansion halls with her laughter echoing off the walls. She called him Uncle Alex, though to her, he was much more. He helped her with homework, read her bedtime stories, and listened when she missed her mom. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sun dip below the city skyline, Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. Uncle Alex, she said softly, Mommy's in heaven, right? He nodded, his throat tight. Yes, sweetheart, she is. She looked up at the sky, eyes glimmering. Then she's watching us. She's always watching, he said. Then I'll make her smile every day, she whispered. Because she smiled when you helped us. Alexander smiled through tears. She'd be proud of you. She'd be proud of us both. They sat in silence, watching the stars appear, one by one. The man who once believed love was a weakness now understood it was the only strength that truly mattered. And it all began with a little girl knocking on his door, whispering, "Please, someone help my mom." Because sometimes, fate doesn't knock to destroy your world. It knocks to rebuild your heart.